100. All right. Let's start off. All right. So with us today we have Nishant Mittal Bhaiya. He is past two-time G Soccer. First time with Opia and second time with Joplin. We have Prakhar Agarwal. He's a second year and he did his GSOC this year with Perdata. We have Arjun Gupta, a third year from Chemical. He did his GSOC with Opia again. We have Shubhanshu. He did his GSOC with Intel. We have Nishta Bodani from Chemical third year. He did it. She did her GSOC from. She did her GSOC from what was that app? Of if I forgot. Nishta, can you please help me out here?
Yeah, CC Extractor organization.
CC Extractor, yeah, CC Extractor, and we have Aishwarya again from Opia. All right. So, all right, people, let's get started. We have a lot of people in here now. All right. So, the how will this session proceed? We have a few questions that we drafted for all of your side, and one by one we'll go by. It will be in a podcast type of manner, and one of us can pick up and answer the question as one of us feels, and we can add in if you want to. All right. So yeah, let's get started. Prakhar. Okay. So yeah, Nishant Bhaiya, would you like to take this up?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, what is GSOC and why should I prepare or aim for it? Okay. So, first of all, what is GSOC? It's a program by Google to promote open source, basically. Now, what is open source? I think we'll answer that later on, right?
Yeah.
Is there a slide for that? Okay. So, but answering it very in a very quick manner, open source software is a software which is whose code you can see and you can contribute to it, and according to its license, maybe you can distribute it also as your own software. Um, and yeah, so some of the open source software that you might have heard of are VLC Media Player. I think a lot of people might be using that. Ubuntu, like your Linux kernel, is completely open source. You can go and contribute to it. Uh, like all of these frameworks are open source, basically. Vue.js, React, Angular. So there are a lot of open source software. And now, what is GSOC? So basically, GSOC is a program by Google in which there are many open source organizations that submit their applications to Google that they want to participate, and Google selects few of them, and then students can apply to those organizations. They have some project ideas prepared. You can apply to those organizations, and if you get selected, you work with those organizations uh, in the summers, and you get stipend for that too. So this is what is GSOC, and why should you prepare for it? You should prepare for it because first of all, it will help you become a it will help you learn a lot. It will help you make a better engineer in general, and it will teach you some skills like communication skills, uh, collaboration skills, and how do you describe your ideas very clearly with the complete team, and how in general at large scale software development works. It will teach you all of that, and you might not learn that when doing projects, while doing your course projects, basically. And this is the first and the biggest benefit. The second and also very large benefit is it's a tag in itself, GSOC. So Google Summer of Code is like it's very prestigious and is highly recognized with the everyone knows what is GSOC. And so people who have successfully completed a GSOC project are like the person knows that yeah, this person has something, he has done something, he has done some real development. And yeah, like nowadays more and more companies are recognizing it. Like I think we had one or two companies in our college also which waived off the online coding round for the GSOCers. So that was pretty nice. Yeah, these are the two biggest benefits. It helps you learn stuff and become a better developer, and it has a tag, and it will show in your interviews that you know something about development.
Yeah, and like one of the things that I would like to point out was that people usually think it's a coding summer, but it actually involves a lot more than that. It's designing your application out. So that also takes efforts.
So yeah, you in general will also feel good that the software, the code you are writing is used by hundreds and thousands of other people, and yeah, and there will be people in future who will be building on top of your work. So that's like a very rare thing.
Yeah. So if anyone would like to add anything to that, we can do that. Otherwise, we can proceed.
I guess the eligibility criteria can also be added. Like the age of the applicant must be greater than or equal to 18.
Yeah, that is definitely something.
That's the part. And to the
All right.
prestigious one, we can also say that this year there were around 7,000 proposals, and out of which only 1,300, around 1,300, made it to the finals. I mean, were
Like
selected.
you might think, like everyone might think, like 1,300 out of 7,000 is not a very big deal, but I'll tell you that submitting a proposal in itself is a very like nice thing. Like not everyone is able to do that. So like if you submitted a proposal and do not get selected, you still end up with learning a lot more knowledge than you had before. Like you'll not regret basically.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add
Here to Nishant Bhaiya's point,
is that many people think because of these statistics that 13
got selected.
many people think कि उतना ज़्यादा competitive नहीं.
Nishant Bhaiya said that just submitting a proposal is
In
itself a very big deal.
Not everybody gets to that stage. So if you can get till there also, kudos.
All right. Yeah. So I guess we'll proceed to the next slide then. Prahar. Yeah. As someone who just started out, is there enough time to explore various things, pursue interests, and be good enough skill-wise to contribute to the next GSOC? If anyone would like to take this up, go ahead. Aishwarya, if you can take this up, that will be great.
Yeah, sure. So I guess this is the perfect time to start with GSOC, even if you are not so well versed with any of the languages. Even if you just know the basics, Hacktoberfest was just now, like it ended yesterday. If you had contributed to that, if you had started your development journey with that, so whatever you're learning, just make some projects, start contributing to open source, see some good first issues, make a pull request. If you have not contributed to Hacktoberfest still, you can contribute to open source, and this is the right time to begin. You can side by side pursue your interest, and it would be possible that you develop your interest in open source itself. And I guess you have enough time, like November, December, January. Projects usually come out at around February, I guess. So you have around 4 or 5 months to contribute, to get to know an organization, to see whether you want to continue or not, or you have other interests, other things you want to pursue. Anything else, Lakshya, you want to add?
I guess the starting thing that was basically when you get to know about a project, then only you start to learn more skills, because prior to that you are not familiar with what tech stack they are using. So the first step should be go ahead, check out the project, what all they need, and talk to the maintainers. You do not need to even know the whole code base. That's not even possible. So take a small bit out of it, take out an issue and learn what is required for that and get started.
True, correct.
And also, I would like to add, so currently we are having online semesters, so that's also a big plus for us. So we get a lot of time. We don't have to devote such time to the college studies anymore. So that will be also a big plus for us this year.
Definitely, yeah. So
I'd like to like say, like I've heard people saying that यार अभी सीख लेना हूँ पहले फिर करूँगा शुरू. Like what I think is, मतलब, you try, you start now, because मतलब you will never be able to learn enough so that you'll be easily able to contribute to a big open source organization just by like learning yourself. You learn while contributing. So just start now.
One thing I'd like to add to that, I have seen a few people do this, like they'll learn JavaScript for a week, for a month, and they'll get bored of it and move to other languages. Don't do that. You don't have to learn Go just after a month of starting development. Like, strengthen yourself in one language, do some projects, contribute to open source. Don't just jump around on languages thinking you're learning more and more. One tech stack, one framework is enough to get started with.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move to the next slide then. Prakhar. How to start with open source. Nisha, would you like to take this up? All right. I guess
think you are the
there's
best
some issue.
person.
All right. Okay. So how to start with open source? So basically the best time was actually Hacktoberfest to start with open source, because you already have a lot of good first issues out there. But still, if you feel like not yet, so what I basically do is, like, if you go over to any software, you are exploring software out there, there is always a GitHub icon if you search around on the site, and you will find out that the code is open source. So what I basically do is, like, I recently found out a torrent website because I download a lot of games and movies. So what I did was I checked out, there was a GitHub repo. I went out there, checked out some issues, and then contributed. So it's that easy. And the other thing you can do is, like, to start with open source, you basically start hanging out in their Slack channels or Gitter channels or IRCs. You start hanging out on the channels of projects and see what is happening out there. Start talking around with people, like start answering some doubts, asking some doubts. And as you get familiar, you can start looking at issues. And what you do is take a small section of that project and concentrate your time over it. Don't try to look over the whole project at once. Find projects that interest you or that you think are within your range of tech stack. So that is the easiest way to go about. And, like, if you find the project interesting, you will obviously keep on contributing to it. So it's all about, like, going over to GitHub and getting started in the end. Yeah.
Add one thing, even if like you are not able to find any particular repository to contribute in, so just like Hacktoberfest, there are multiple competitions run by so many institutes. Like during winters, you will surely get so many institutes that they will host this winter of code kind of thing. So like our institute also does something, but in a different way. So you can contribute there also. I also, like, this happened to me too. I was able to contribute to Opia because there was some competition they were taking part in. So that helped me at that point. So you can also find something like that.
What was that competition?
That was something maintainers, like the competition was from the college of one of the maintainers. So that's why it helped. There was nothing like they were meant to go there. It just happened.
I guess
to
it
be there.
it can be something like NJAC or KVox.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
kind of.
contributing this.
It was
I
Slob
think,
actually for Opia.
Yep.
I think Kevin Thomas applied there. Yeah, but that's different. We can discuss it later on.
Anything, Sanchit, you would like to add to this? I guess it will be great if you can add to this. We know, like, you started off pretty late, I guess, right? So it will be great if you can add to this.
Yeah, I actually started out around February, and the first organization I contributed to was Zulip. So I'll just give pointers. First of all, like it's a very daunting task. किसी ने यहाँ पे start किया हो तो उनको feel होगा कि starting में बहुत ज़्यादा daunting feel होगा, and it takes some time. Just be patient and keep at it. And मतलब एक जैसे issue को find किया, उस पे work करते रहो, take help and give up क्योंकि एक दिन में नहीं हुआ. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, and someone asked like when to start contributing. So the timeline varies with people. Like some people start off in December. That's probably the best time and gives you a lot of edge. You can start now too, and even people if they start down around March, they still make it. So it varies, but it is the best time, I guess, to get an edge over everyone else. All right, we'll move to the next slide then. Oh, okay, Nishant, you want to add something?
No, I just want to say like what Sanjit said. Like a lot of people, like mostly I think 80-90% people drop out in the starting itself. Like starting is the like most difficult phase. Like setting it up on your machine and afterwards finding an issue to work on, not understanding anything, the code base. Like yeah, your first PR will take a large amount of time, and getting it merged will also take a lot of time. Like I think maybe you'll have a lot of code reviews, and yeah, it will take a lot of time in the start. So don't get demotivated in the start itself.
Yeah, and like
If you get stuck, then you can always ask for help, and you'll be surprised that many people are ready to help you anytime.
yeah, the maintainers are like they are the best people out there. You can like basically bother them, keep on bothering them, and then they still will answer your questions. Like ask any type of silly question and they still answer it. So yeah, that helps. But at least show them your progress. Like I did this, I reached till this point. How should I get to the final point? So yeah. All right, we can move to the next slide. Yeah. Applicants start contributing around November and December, and the shortlisted organization are announced later. Besides trend, how many organizations should one apply to? All right. Shubhanshu, would you like to take this up?
I guess the limit is for 3 organizations, but it is recommended that we select like at most 2-3 organizations and then curtail the list down to 1 or 2 at max. So when I started, I guess I selected around 20 organizations because every organization was looking good. So over a few months, I actually tried each of those and selected 3 organizations. One was Creative Commons and another was Dart, and third was, I guess, I don't remember its name. So the first 2 organizations were not selected at all for GSOC, and I had around 4 to 5 contributions for that in them. But then actually I guess I started with Dart in November and contributed 4-5 issues and made around, I think, 10 PRs, but most of them was related to documentation, so that counts a bit. Okay, so in the end I submitted only 1 proposal. I was trying for 2, but as soon as I realized that I would like to go for Intel's project, I only submitted 1 project because quality is better than quantity. So that's my point. Anyone else would like to add something?
Yeah, even I submitted only 1 proposal. Is there anyone that submitted multiple proposals?
I don't think there is. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay.
I also submitted 1. Yeah.
Okay,
think
I
that
submitted two
was-
proposals, but both
Oh,
were
yeah.
for the same organizations and project were different. So instead of, I would suggest contributing to multiple organizations, you can focus on one organization and their multiple projects. So chances of selection might increase. Each organization has different projects
yeah.
too.
If you're starting out very early, like right now, you can go for multiple organizations and then afterwards shortlist the project that looks more better to you, that you have more chances. Yeah. If you are starting out early, you can choose multiple. But yeah, later on, I don't think it's suggested to go for more than two.
So, like I would like to add, so I also started around starting of the November, but I was also contributing to a Mahi organization. Like I contributed 30 pull requests that they were merged. And in the late February, when the organizations were announced, I got to know that Amai didn't get selected this year. Like I was disheartened a lot. So, but I tried to apply. I tried to select another organizations. So then I selected Per Data. So what I mean is that once you have done some pull requests and they got merged, then they also count towards your GSOC proposal. You can list them down that you have done these open source contributions also. So nothing goes waste in this. So even if your organization didn't get selected, so there's still hope, and you can also clear the GSOC then.
Just one point, like you can check how many times the organization has been selected in the past. So like select such an organization that has a record of being selected, so that you're in a safe zone. Like you can go to this website. This is yeah, same website.
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
So this is developed by Nishant Bhaiya, and you can check the number of projects, the times the organization has been selected. Choose a safe organization that would be better. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we can proceed to the next slide. And I know you have some questions, but we have that covered in the slide, so don't worry. Yeah. So yeah, let's move to the next slide. If a person wants to explore all possible career opportunities, can aiming for GSOC constrict them in any manner, since it requires dedication and time? I don't think it constricts yourself. I think it adds to your resume.
The last part is true. It requires time and dedication, but the first part can be said false because it also gives you particular insights about the organization and the technologies you want to explore. So that's even a plus point.
One thing I'll add here is that like since everything takes up some amount of time, firstly, I don't think anybody here gave like full time like time to GSOC कि दिन में 8-9 घंटे दे रहे हैं. I don't think any of the panelists did that. So I think it's kind of a part-time thing, contribution period to at least. So no, you can still explore other things in your remaining time.
Yeah, like it was the intern season coming out, and like we all were busy with DSA. But what I used to do, like I used to work out on Saturday and Sunday and report back on Mondays to my mentor, like I did this, and it was fine. Like the work was going fine because the timeline, the time that we have to give in is also reduced nowadays, so that helps. Yeah. So the time was like 17 to 18 hours, I guess, right? This year.
Yeah, I think it was 20 hours per week.
Yeah, it
like
was
around this much.
Yeah, 20 hours per week. Okay, all right. Yeah.
I want to
Yes,
clarify that 20 hours per week is just for the coding period when you get selected. Before that, it is up to you. And I think some panelists can share their experience, like how much time that they devoted per week to contributing. For me, I'll say it was around 20 hours, even before.
Like I used to hang out a lot in their GitHub channel, so that also takes some time. But yeah, I did something like that too.
Yes, mostly the part was for discussions. So if the discussions are not considered, I guess I gave around 10 to 12 hours per week. But the discussions were almost daily.
Yeah.
So if that counts, it will go up to 20 hours.
All right, we can move to the next slide then, I guess. Okay, that's a golden question. All right. Anyone want to take this up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I suggest is, if you're starting out now, you should choose the organization that you are interested in. That you feel that I'm very interested in what this thing built, what this organization is building, their softwares. And but if you're starting out late, like in Feb or like around February, after the organizations are not, I'd suggest go for the organization which match the tech stack that you know. But right now you don't need to worry about languages or tech stack. You can learn, like I said before, you can learn along while contributing. So yeah, that's what I think. Like currently, you should choose the organization that you're interested in, and if you are particularly aiming for GSOC, then you should choose the organization that appears frequently, is at least appearing from the last 2 years. And yeah, if you are starting out early, you don't need to worry about the number of people it hires, it selects, because yeah, you have very good chances if you're starting out now. Anyone wants to add something?
Yeah, like so I will tell the criteria that I made to select the organization. So the criteria was like it should have at least 3 previous selections. It should be coming from at least 3 years, and there should be a lot of issues for me to work on. So that was all the criteria that I needed.
For the community.
Yeah,
That it's at least active.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like to add one more thing. Choose an organization that's a bit active. Like there are some organizations that I know that are only active during the GSOC period or Hacktoberfest period, and they don't actively review pull requests by the contributors like very frequently. It takes for 2 or 3 weeks for them to review just to take a single code pass. I'll not recommend you to like start with these type of organizations. Like start with organizations that have a bit active, like they create issues frequently. If someone asks to assign them, they assign them very quickly and they review pull requests quickly. Search for this kind of organization.
Yeah, I made this mistake. Like I started off with Hydra and they weren't active at all. So I was creating issues, I was solving in them, and they were taking like 1 or 2 weeks to review them and merge them. So that didn't feel good. Like you get demotivated seeing that your contributions are not going in.
Yeah. So
okay. So someone asked Arjun, like, what did you pointed out about community? Can you please explain?
I didn't get
Yeah, the chat box.
Okay.
Deepak asked question.
Yeah, the same thing that Nishant here pointed out. Like at least the mentors must be reviewing the PRs. You can verify this with us. Like just go onto the PRs that are currently closed or not actually merged. Like you will see that if it is very frequent that PRs are getting merged normally, and there was a less time difference between everything. So it means that these particular organization is active, and like you can also go to their mailing list or their GitHub channel if some of them are replying at least, so it will be fine. Because I have been in such organizations too that like for 4 to 5 months no one even replies on GitHub. So there are kind of organizations like this, and there are something like which reply like 2 times a day. So both of them exist. Just look for the better one.
One point I'd like to add is, like, when you're starting with an organization, be the user, like use their website, use their product, register for it, sign up, log in, use it, find out flaws. Don't look at it as a developer who's aiming for GSOC. Just use whatever they have built, and then you'll definitely have some points that may have a room for improvement, some issues you can file. Begin with smaller stuff, filing issues, and using the product. Don't directly jump in with pulling out PRs. That's one point.
Someone asked, can you suggest us some orgs? I don't like, there are really good orgs out there. I think the org should be like, which orgs you shouldn't go for. That can be a good question. I would suggest don't go for Hydra. Never. HTTP APIs, actually. HTTP APIs, its name was. Yeah. Anyone would like to add any orgs that they shouldn't go for?
Is there any possibility that you will get sued for this?
I don't think
You
so.
can go to like COPS GitHub and see the 23 proposals that were there. Check out those organizations. You'll have a mentor from COPS itself for those
Yeah.
organizations. That would be a good start.
To the channel. Yeah. All right, we'll move to the next question then. I think one is more than enough if you are making good contributions.
Like sometimes this may happen that like the project you really like and you are aiming for has multiple people applying to it. Then you can choose one more proposal as a backup, like Nisha did. She had 2 proposals in the same organization. Another thing that happens is that early contributors decide among themselves that they will only apply to this project and they will not interfere with somebody else's project. Like if there are 2 early contributors competing for one project, then obviously किसी एक का तो जाएगा वहां से. So one is the best thing to like aim for, but if there are chances that you might like are competing with someone who is an early contributor, then you can go for another one.
Yeah, this is very good advice. Actually, I do this. Like I did this both the times. Like, if you see there are people that are early contributors, it's better to have make a group or something and decide on which projects will you be applying, because like you said, एक का तो कटा ही नहीं, अगर मतलब 2 अच्छे लोग एक प्रोजेक्ट में अप्लाई करेंगे. And even organizations don't want to lose out good people. So yeah, organizations would be in favor of doing this.
Backup proposal is not up to the mark, but the organization knows that you could pull it off if you have the time, then they'll select you. And question Deepak asked is, how do you know which student is opting? Like you have to communicate. There are GitHub channels, mailing lists. You will know who is contributing, who is there in their teams. Some organizations have sub teams within themselves. So you'll get to know once you are interacting with them.
Yeah, and like I know an incident happened. So Kushal is not with us, but like Kushal contributed to what was About Code, I guess it was About Code, and he made like both of the early contributors were aiming for a single project, but then Kushal backed off and tried out in a project that no one was aiming for, and his proposal was not up to the mark, but the maintainers helped him out and he made a approximately good proposal and he was accepted. So yeah, as Nishan Bhaiya said, they don't want to lose good contributors, so they will accept you if you even apply for a partially good project. Right, Kushal is not with us in meeting. Yeah. All right, we'll move to the next question then. And yeah, make sure to keep the questions coming in Q&A. And beforehand, should I still contribute?
As I said, like my opinion is yes, you can. Like you can learn a little bit, learn the basics before, and then jump into contributing. Because you learn a lot. You can learn while contributing. That's my opinion. If anyone
And
wants to add
GSOC is for learning itself. Most people, like I learned TypeScript and Angular while contributing. Yeah. So yes, obviously you can start without knowing anything in particular. Learn while contributing is the best thing.
Like we had a question, like we had several questions about this. So let me just pick out one. All right. If possible, drop it in the Q&A. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
Sanchit, go ahead. Yeah.
Too rigid about how much
Of the tech,
because that this really constrains
which organizations you pick. So like Nishant Bhaiya said, even if you know a little bit, the basics, you should definitely try if you're interested in the organization and what they're building.
I will bring this question out. So is the question visible somewhere? All right. So like the question was, how much dev should I know before starting out contributions? Git and GitHub is more than sufficient to start out, I guess. That's my answer for that.
Are we answering questions from Q&A section?
Yeah, like the ones relevant to the slide. I think we can answer them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was one more about, did the tech stack ever restrict you to contribute to an organization?
Like I would like to answer this one. As you will see on the GSOC organizations page, you will see so many organizations and they will be using a diversity of tech stacks. So even if you know some language, then you will find tens of projects using that tech stack only. So
yeah, and there was one question about, will we be able to learn more than C or C++? You have more than enough time to learn anything right now. You can learn Kubernetes, you can learn Go, you can learn Rust, you can learn anything right now. You have a lot of time.
But just keep one thing in mind. Don't get frustrated if it's not nothing is going to come easy to you. It will take a lot of time, and maybe it's just one line that solves this issue, but it may take 10 days to you to come up with that change. And yeah, don't get frustrated that like itna time laga diya or matlab bilkul chota sa change tha. Like it happens at the start to everyone.
Yeah, and there was one more question. I have shortlisted Cloud Native Foundation, but I don't know much about Kubernetes. Is it a good choice? Because I'm interested in its project.
I think Lakshya, you can answer it. You are working with them, right?
So like Cloud Native Foundation has a lot of projects, and the one I am working on, it didn't even need me to know Docker. And what I knew was Golang, and basically they accepted me, and like I'm still able to work it out. And so yeah, not all organizations in Cloud Native Foundation need Kubernetes, but they at least do something with it. Even my org does something with it, but it's not necessary for you to know Kubernetes to get started with Cloud Native Foundation.
But yeah, if you're genuinely interested, I think you can go. But I think you should know the basics of dev if you're going with Cloud Native, because it's all of most of the projects that use DevOps. DevOps, you should know about dev. The basics of, at least you should know how a full stack app works, and then you can start learning about DevOps and how are things like containers, Kubernetes, Docker, etc.
I think we answered a lot of questions on this slide. Let's move on to the next one. How many PRs should I raise in an organization before submitting a proposal?
I think it depends on the organization, and a lot of organizations mention this in their GSOC wiki itself, that we expect the contributors or the people submitting the proposal to have at least two good amount of PRs, like two good quality PRs, and like yeah, it depends on the organization. And yeah, in OPA, I think there is a restriction that people with two pull requests, minimum two pull requests, can submit a proposal. And in Joplin, there was that, yeah, the more the better.
Yeah, I guess it's
Yeah, it
the
depends.
usual case, the more the better.
Yeah.
It's more
So,
usual.
yeah, I've seen people getting accepted who don't even have one pull request merged. So it's not a hard requirement even to have a PR merged.
And also, like, you should also focus on the quality of the PRs that you're making. So, like, you can make multiple PRs for small contributions also, but I would suggest you can focus on quality as well.
Yes, there is a question: what is a good quality PR? It's like you can make PRs for spelling mistakes, typos in the README, linting changes, like someone added two extra spaces somewhere. You can make those pull requests, and they will still accept that. They will still merge that, but those are not considered good quality PRs. Good quality PRs means you are able to show them that you understand the code base and the technology good enough. So yeah, that's what I think good quality means. Anyone wants to add something?
Yeah, all right. So, oh, someone asked, can you give an example for a good quality PR, I guess?
Like anyone can drop a link to a pull request. So like any pull request that solves a good issue and shows that the contributor has the understanding of the code base is a good quality PR. They are not rare that you need to see an example.
Yeah, like adding in a new feature, refactoring, anything is a good PR. Yeah.
Yeah, but like typos, adding spaces, etc. They are like some like small PRs that don't have much. That don't show anything actually.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, someone said low quality basic stuff that anyone can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the next slide. The projects of last year look scary. How did you choose one?
Anyone else would like to answer this?
I'll take this one. I have a little bit of a funny story about this. Like basically, last year when organizations were announced, I contributed to Koala. I did my project in Koala org. So I did not know much about the organizations or what it does. But when I went through the projects page. So I just thought that I cannot do it in this organization. The projects are too confusing, and I discarded it at that moment. But like I did the same thing for like every organization, and at the end I got confused. Like यार कोई organization तो लेनी है, सब में ही ऐसे हो गया. So I looked at Koala's track record and I went back to it because it gave a lot of projects. And once I understood the like what they did, what their product was, and once I understood each of their projects, then I could easily see that this is something that. So just TLDR is that work on something, understand it, and then you'll be able to choose.
Yeah, like the first step actually is to choose an organization, and then you are already restricted. Like these are the projects, so you can find your interest because you already know the project well enough, and then you can choose anyone. So yeah, and like they cite in basic requirements for the project, so that helps.
There's also a difficulty written on the project idea. So a bit of idea regarding the project itself. I mean, I decided through that only because there were in my org there were only two types of difficulties, hard and medium. So I thought medium would be easier, so selected medium one.
Yeah, in my org, it was like they had a project for socket library, and I knew a bit about web dev, so I went ahead with it. So it was like in my range, and I knew about the project, so it was something.
And like from my experience, like first time you read some project, you'll definitely be like, I don't know, like what does this even mean? But if you talk to the mentors who have like proposed that project, if you ask them what it really is, how, what part of the code base is it from, and just like do a bit of research on that project, then you will be able to understand. पहली बार देखने में वो डरावना लगेगा, but you'll get to understand it once you research about it, talk to people about the project, and do this for around 2-3 projects or more, and select the one you think is the best for you.
Like if you are exploring a large code base, so you can start by starting by a small file. Like if you're developing a web app, then you can go with the flow. Like first the home page will load up, so you can check how the home page functions. Now if you click on a button like go to about page, so you can see that the about page how that functions. So you can also try to do that. Like you can go with the flow of the app and start to learn one file at a time.
All right, I think we can move on to the next slide. What should I do before and after submitting a proposal to increase my chances of selection?
After,
Yeah.
just keep contributing. Like there's a 1 month gap between after you submit your proposal and the results come out. So now if you suddenly vanish after submitting a proposal, I think you have then very low chances of getting selected, because yeah, the organization can see you're just here for GSOC, and yeah, you don't really care about the project. So I think we should just keep contributing after submitting a proposal. Before that, yeah, you can increase your chances by having some PRs before, like starting out quite early and showing them that you're genuinely interested in this project and the organization. That's actually, that should be the basis of you selecting the organization, that you are interested in this.
Yeah, I would like to add to this that open, like you can contribute, like try to close the PRs that you have. Like in your proposal, you can mention what I will do in this break. I will try to closing the open PRs that I have, get them reviewed, get them merged. And the other thing that you should do is like keep on contacting the maintainers about anything, any discussion that is going out in the social channels. Try to keep on interacting because they want you to keep on doing this even after GSOC phase. So if you are interacting with them, that creates somewhat of a relationship between you and the maintainers and the project. So they want to keep that relation not just till the GSOC period, but long enough. So that's why you should keep on contacting your maintainers and interacting with people in the org. I think we didn't cover the before part that much. So anyone would like to add anything more to the before part? I think we covered the after part. Yeah. So if anyone would like to add anything to the before part, please.
In the before part, one thing is keep coding, keep submitting PRs, and secondly, as and when you work on your proposal, keep your mentors or the people that you are in touch with, keep them updated about what you're doing, how your proposal making is going, what you included, what you're including, and try and get a draft to them as soon as possible.
I think we lost Prakhar. Right. I need to look up the
From
A
slide.
lot
the
of
meeting.
organizations, yeah. So a lot of organization would be more than happy to review your draft proposals. So before submitting a proposal, do get your mentor's review. Like until and unless they give a looks good to me on your proposal, continuous kind of like go through those cycles of reviewing, and don't just submit a random proposal without getting it reviewed.
All right. I think we can move on to the next question. How to write a good proposal. So I think we can answer along with that what is a proposal, because many people were confused about it.
How to write a good proposal. First of all, I think every organization has a proposal template. Follow that. See the past year proposals to that organization and other organizations in general. See how people put out their project. And yeah, so basically, according to me, proposal should cover things like, first of all, the basic introduction, and then what did you contribute to this organization, and what motivated you to pick this project. Then it should then start covering about what you propose, and like what will the final product look like, what are the technical changes you think that you'll be making, and a timeline.
Yeah, and I did like to add to that was we have something called as GSOC mentorship in our college, and it really helped me a lot. Like I got it reviewed from my mentor Shivansh Bhia, and he like the first review I got from is what is this? Get it better. It is nothing. You won't get selected. So get it reviewed from your mentors, from your seniors. Like it helps a lot. I got review from Nishant Bhia and Ashish Bhia too. So that helps a lot if you get a review from your seniors as well.
I can add one more thing to it. While writing the proposal, sometimes it happens that we are out of content. So I followed a 3-step strategy for that. The first step was have a lot of discussion with mentors. So I had around 340 emails within the proposal period with my mentor, and then do a background research on the project from your side. Like in my project, it was about applying artificial intelligence filters to images and videos. So I went on exploring how these things work. And the third part is read some code from the repo that is related to the project, and possibly try to contribute to that module. So you'll know how that works. So and then you can write about that also. So you can write pseudocode or a part of code like code snippet, whichever you feel is right. That's all.
I like to add. I believe that contributions matter more than your proposal. So if you have got good contributions, then you can worry less about your proposal.
Agree with Prakhar. I think Prakhar said it right. One more thing I'd like to add here is that as in when you contribute and when you make your proposal, it will be clearer to you what to add and how you can make it good. And it varies a lot organization to organization what you need to include in it. Like every org has different criteria of what needs to be included in there. So you can see it on the go.
Like orgs like Opia would need you to write exactly what you will change how will you change it, when will you change it. They want it to be like what, like mini GSOC करवा लेंगे वो तुमसे पहले प्रपोजल लिखते वक्त. So it would depend from organization to organization. OPS very strict with its proposal. So पहले के proposal देख लेना हर org के. Like किसी में 10 pages are enough. किसी में they go on to around 50 pages. So don't be startled by the number of pages of a proposal, but be prepared for that organization.
If you write off assignments, you will be good in writing 40 pages.
Yeah, actually it helps also. Like if you study the project very carefully before while making proposal, and when actually coding after you're selecting, it takes a lot less time to like make decisions, because you have already made decisions before and you have a lot of code written before, so you can just reuse it. It's very quick afterwards.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to the next question, I guess. What is community bonding period?
So anyone that had the actual community bonding period can answer it. Like in my experience, community bonding period is mini coding period.
Proposal recorrecting period.
Yeah, anyone else that?
Mine was like the organization, they hosted a meeting with all the maintainers and all the GSOC students, and we brought in our pets, and like some of the maintainers brought in their pets, and we were like just talking like what time we have and anything like that. Like random talks were going around. So that was one meeting. So that was all my community bonding period. And apart from that, yeah, the one meeting with my actual mentors was there. So I guess it doesn't happen actually much. Like community bonding period is just a hoax.
In my org, I didn't even meet once, or like even voice chat. All conversations were in Discord, text only. Yeah.
This community bonding period to learn what I have to code. I didn't know about that.
Plus one to that. I also didn't know. Yeah, all right. We can move on to the next question, I guess. What to do after GSOC? Give party to your juniors, please. And your seniors also, those who help you. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Send your stuff.
Put that in your resume. That is something, yeah. Okay, I'm ignoring the chats right now. Let's move on to the next. Anything like a serious answer to that question? What would that be? What to do after GSOC?
Mentor somebody else.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's a good.
Document your journey.
Release
Yeah,
a blog.
I think-
Release a blog.
Yeah.
Release a blog, put it on your resume, and publicize yourself. Put a LinkedIn post. I think opportunities will start coming to you.
Yeah.
If you publicize yourself enough after these. Big deal.
Yeah.
It's
Another
not-
serious. Oh, sorry, Bhaiya. Go on. No. You go first.
Actually, I was saying nothing. Ishan.
Yeah. Okay. So another serious answer could be just keep contributing to open source. Just like GSOC is not the like destination; it's part of the journey for most. So keep on going. Keep learning. Keep contributing.
Yeah, definitely. Like some of the people who do GSOC, even like they become the core maintainers of the project someday, and like they totally commit themselves to the project. We got to know this in our like, what was it, GSOC summit, I guess. Yeah, some people came around. So yeah, even people do that.
A lot of people, like next year, they become mentors in the same organization.
Yeah, so Aman Tripathi asked if someone did GSOC during college summer internship period, would it count as a valid internship? It's actually your industrial internship, I guess, and it counts, the GSOC. It counts.
I don't think, like, have you seen, like, I don't think our college officially accepts.
No, it's an issue. Like we can't mention two things at the same time with the same time period.
No,
Huh, we
mention
can't.
it.
Yeah, like if someone does it only, yeah.
He is asking about like the official internship period of our college. Like you guys will be interning, I too will be interning next summer. So he's asking if we do GSOC instead of our on-campus intern, will it count as an intern? I don't think our college accepts that.
Not acceptable.
Yeah, even if you go to Google FAQ, they say that it's not an internship.
Yeah, they say that.
It's a project for which you are being paid.
Do we have someone from TPC over here? Like, I guess if we had Purushottam, we could have better answered it, but yeah. Because like I am like
You can
partially
do it
sure.
normally, but you will not be able to mention it in your resume. Like, either you will be mentioning your technical internship that you did or the GSOC, not both of them. That's just about resume. You can do it normally, obviously.
That's for those who do it in third year. Yeah, third year for BTech, like the question was for third year BTech and fourth year IDD.
I think Arjun is saying if you do both, yeah, you can do both. If your normal internship is online, yeah, offline you won't get the time and the bandwidth. But if it's online, I think it can be managed.
Yeah, like so there was one thing that I would like to point out regarding that thing. So if you do your GSOC after second year, you can mention it in the internship period. Like you can mention it in your resume even if it's partially done. So like TPC allows that at least. So you can mention it in your experience section because that's something. So you can mention GSOC over there, like they allow. All right, so we can move on to the next question. Opportunities programs other than GSOC. All right, Sunny, would you like to take this up first? Sunny, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can
Okay.
hear you.
Yeah, she is. Okay.
Outreach, yeah, it's a great opportunity other than GSOC. It's not only for girls, and there's a doubt. Generally, people have that it's only for girls, but everyone can apply for it. And for the initial selection, there are some articles that they have to submit regarding different discrimination and their life journey they did. So that's a great opportunity other than GSOC.
And like, can you brief the students about like what is the procedure for GSOC and for outreach and like how is it different from GSOC or anything like that?
Yeah, for outreach, there is a initial selection round too. Like last year there were like 3,000 initial application, and out of them 700 got selected, and then there's a final application round, and in that only 70 or 60 people are selected. So that's the procedure.
Okay.
And the contribution is just like GSOC, submitting a proposal and etc.
Okay. All right. So I think we covered the Hacktoberfest part already. If you want to check it out, you can go to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe it. And yeah, so I will cover the LFX Linux Foundation mentorship part. So Linux Foundation mentorship, it's something that happens twice a year. The first term is will start around January and the other is in September. So it is also similar to GSOC, but you don't actually like the organization numbers is just too much, and there isn't anything like a trend that this organization come in. The statistic for it is the project will come, a different project comes out every time, and there you have to like select a project, and it has some prerequisites, like they will mention it. So the first one is you submit your resume and cover letter, and then you go on and like they will mail you their task if they have any task, or they will mention it in the issue, and they will ask for those things. So Linux Foundation is something that each project had its own requirements. Like I saw one project was there which asked the students to implement a feature. So it happens like they have their set of tasks which you need to perform in those 7 days. So like you get a 1 week period of submitting your resume and cover letter, and within that 1 week you need to get that task done. So that is all you need to do, and after that it is very much similar to GSOC. You stay in contact with your mentor and you keep on working. There is a midterm evaluations, and yeah, you receive a stipend, and there are other opportunities as well. So like your mentor can, usually what happens is that your mentor refers to you to some company, so that helps. So they will refer you out to some company, and that helps.
Yeah. I think someone asked about is there some um, like is there some projects? Are there some projects in blockchain in GSOC? I want to like answer that. There's a whole different mentorship program, somewhere of Bitcoin. Like I think it was launched this year, and one student from our institute too got selected for that. Yeah, like there's a whole different program for like Bitcoin. Like for Bitcoin there was, and the stipend too was like exactly double of what was offered in GSOC, but they paid in Bitcoin. So I don't know how much those $3,000 are worth now, but yeah.
Yeah. So all right, like let's go over to the Q&A and check it out. So the first question is, and how is the matrix, which is a network for? I don't know about this one. The first question. I think it is something the person is asking about Kubernetes architecture.
No, I think Matrix is an organization
Oh,
that
yeah, Matrix
has
is
a that builds decentralized chat systems, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's most famous because it takes around like 20 or more than 20 projects. So it's very popular in that regard.
Yeah, it's a good organization. I think it's a good organization. Yeah, by seeing actually I have no experience with them, so I can't say for sure, but it looks like it's a good organization. You can go for it.
20 is a really good number, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, they have projects in Python, JavaScript. Yeah, like Python and JavaScript are the two most famous languages in GSOC. So they have projects in them, and there are like actually these languages are very common. Like mostly, if everyone begins, they begin with either one of JavaScript or Python. So yeah, you
All
can
right.
go give it a try.
Yeah. So there is a next question. Is there a Discord server where we can help each other out? You can join the COPS Discord server.
Yeah, I think it's called Cops Freshers still. Is that so?
Yeah,
Like
it is called.
I think we can rename it because yeah, it's not just for freshers
Yeah,
now.
I will just quickly
Yeah, you
look
can
over it. Yeah, I will just look over it. Till then, we can go over to the next question. So the next question is, what is a good amount of contributions? I think we covered it, so we can just skip it over. And yeah, how many people are accepted in a single organization? Is there a list for it?
It depends on each organization, I guess. And for the list of people who are accepted into the organization, we can view the GSOC archive.
All right. So the next question is, what is a proposal? Is it a PR? Definitely not a PR. Yeah.
So I think we can go over the timeline and the workflow of GSOC once. I think we have not covered that.
Yeah. All right. Nishta, would you like to take this up? We again don't have Nishta, I guess. All right. Arjun, would you like to take this up?
Correct dates, but it's like, do we have to speak the correct dates or just an approximate?
I think approximate works, yeah.
Yeah, so like by the time of February, you will be seeing the organizations that was selected to mentor any student in the GSOC. So at that time, you are sure that this particular organization that you might have eyes on, or you might see some new organization there. So they are coming into GSOC. And this is the time then most of the people like look for the projects. What is the particular organization hosting? Like there will be 4 to 5 projects for any organization, and you will be going to the web pages and seeing what are the description about it, and if you find it correct, and like if it's interesting to you, and the tech stack also is out approximate, so you will be pursuing with the same project. And the people who are contributing to an organization a bit earlier than others, they already have some idea about the project that may come, or the projects are already listed beforehand that they are announced as a GSOC organization. So yeah, that's a plus point for the one who are contributing earlier, because this happened to us also. Like before even our organization got selected, we were able to see the projects that they were going to host this summer. So that was our thing. And after February, like this is the time when everyone will start contributing and making proposals. Like after you select a project, you will start making a proposal over it, trying to get it reviewed from mentors, to from seniors, from friends, anyone else. And then around March, or what is it? Is it March, right? Like we submitted finally.
It was April, I guess.
Yeah,
Mid-April.
mid-April.
Oh yeah, mid-April. So after mid-April, like you just submit your proposal and then wait for about a month to get the results. And after a month, you will see that who all students got selected, and you will receive this information via email. So when you will see that you have a particular selection email, then after that, from June 7, you will have your community bonding period there, and like in there you interact with the mentors, normally check up on the proposal that you have created and any issues that you may face, like normal stuff. And after like 15 to 14 days from this, you will start actually coding the things that you have. And the coding period is actually broken down into certain milestones, so that you are not burdened with everything to do at once. Like everything should not be reviewed at once. You will have, like this year there were 2 milestones because of the decreased timeline, but earlier we had the GSOC period has 3 milestones. And what these milestones suggest, like they prove that a certain amount of work that was promised has been done. And if you are able to do that work, you will be getting the portion of the stipend accordingly. For example, in this year we had 2 milestones, so half of the stipend was given to the people who were able to successfully complete or almost complete the promise that they had made for the milestone 1. So that happens. And if you are not able to complete the promise and the organization is too strict, you will be disqualified from the GSOC, and no stipend, no certificate. That's the end. But if you do succeed, then in the end, after the completion of second or third milestone, whatever it is, you will get the certificate along with the last portion of the stipend that is left. Then how it's GSOC gets end with that.
All right, so that covered it really well. So let's see if there are some questions that we can answer in from the Q&A. So someone asked, I have, okay, all right, this is a big one. Bhaiya, right after GSOC, we have companies in our campus and they have coding rounds. So we need to have a good practice of CP and DSA. Now, those who don't go for GSOC prepare these in this time. When will we go for it then? All right. Yeah, if anyone would like to take this up. So his question is basically, will we be left out if we go for GSOC rather than practicing DSA? I guess, yeah.
I'm getting a little bit of static. Yeah. So,
like this can certainly happen. This year it was like GSOC was 20 hours per week, which means like daily 3 or 4 hours of coding. Normally it is twice that. It's a full-time full-time like a job, you can say that. So it's not been announced for the next year yet, but this can definitely happen. So general advice would be that start preparing for both of these things on time, so that even during May, June, you are you're done with most of your DSA and CP, and so you're able to manage both of them. And another thing that it's definitely manageable. You just need to plan ahead.
Yeah, I think Lakshmi, you can also answer this.
Yeah. So what I did was I used to do my GSOC tasks on Saturday and Sunday, and then I used to get back to my mentor this is what I did. He used to tell me this is what you have to do for next week, and that too I used to do on Saturday and Sunday. So the rest of the weekdays I used to practice DSA in that, and there are strict resources that you have to do for internship, so that it's a manageable task. I would say you can plan ahead what you need to do, create a Notion page and start listing out things that you need to do and that you are missing it on. So if you plan things out, it gets really easy, because with GSOC what you have to do is you need to keep on working, but it's not you need to submit the whole project in one day or 1 week. So all you need to do is make some little bit progress each week. So yeah, I was able to practice DSA in the while when I was doing. So if you start early, if you are doing DSA since first year, or from the start of second year, you already know a lot of stuff. So all you need to do is revise them up quickly and make sure to look out the things that are necessary for these rounds. So that makes a very small portion. So yeah, definitely doable. And yeah, Nishant, if you like to add to this.
No, I think you both, Sanchit and Lakshmi, covered it. That you can be left out if you don't plan things well, but yeah, it's manageable if you are able to. You will be able to if you plan things.
Yeah, and the one perk that we missed out on, the tag of GSOC on your resume certainly catches the eyes of companies. So that already reduces the bar for you. And yeah, there is one story that I think we cannot go for the story, but at least Shubhanshu can tell out some of the things that happened with him with the GSOC tag. So that helped him in the internships.
The Microsoft one.
Microsoft one, gist of that, how it helped you out. Yeah.
So actually, I was interviewing for the data scientist role with Microsoft, and then during the interview, the interviewer asked me about my GSOC project because it involved both the TensorFlow. So it was partly a DSA project, partly DSA, partly the data science project, and partly a normal development project. DSA project because it involved using the linked list and trees. So he asked me about the project in detail, and then I told him everything about the project, from the architecture to the implementation part, and he was really impressed from listening to what I said. So he also told me that he would also recommend me for the software development role, and I had only 2 rounds of interview instead of 3. The second round was with a manager in Microsoft, but that it did not require even a bit of coding. So I guess only 1 coding round, and finally in I guess at 11 p.m. I got offer from the HR offered me the roles in data science as well as SWE, software. So I had to choose one of them, so I choose software. That's how I got into Microsoft software. So indeed, it helped a lot.
Yeah, there is a particular shift. If you are a GSOCer, so in your interview, the highlight is on your GSOC project. So and those projects are really good. So like my interviewer was very impressed with the async IO work I was doing, so he definitely got into that, and like that shifted the flow of interview from DSA to my project. So yeah, it really helped a lot.
Yeah, one thing Nishta highlighted in the chat, that is, it will it might not benefit you as much in the on campus, but off campus it will benefit you a lot. Like it will separate you from the crowd.
I was hoping like Nishta and Arjun, you can cite a few points for the non-circuital students out there, so it helps them. How can they use the GSOC tag?
There were a couple of companies in first week which shortlisted the students based on their resume. So yeah, if you have GSOC in your resume, then you will be shortlisted easily for a test as well. GS was among them, and Wells Fargo was also shortlisted based on resume.
Arjun, would you like to add something to that?
It really helped me with my internship too. Like in the interview process, in the end, they were asking about my project, like what you actually did and how you managed to do that. And that helped in a similar way that helps Shubhanshu helped me too. Like they were not focused about the coding part of it, and they were thinking about what was the strategy and how you planned it and what was the result and were you able to do it. So that really it proves that yeah, you can you are able to pick up something hard and you are able to complete it. So they just need to verify it that yeah, you are actually the person who is doing so and you are completely okay with the things that you have mentioned and like you are true to it. So yeah, this really helps. And even after GSOC, you there was a time like the people approach you over LinkedIn to ask or to hire you also. So these totally help it. So yeah, that is it almost.
Okay. We have one questions in the Q&A. Okay. It is, how can we get mentored from college seniors? Are there in group? So I would like to take this up. So yeah, we'll be starting off with the GSOC mentorship program this year early. We will start off in January. And there you will be assigned mentors, like by past GSOC mentors. And before that too, you can like contact the previous year GSOC students. We are always happy to help you out. So yeah, you can do that. And the COPS Discord server that we mentioned about, you can drop in your questions out there. Any one of us can answer. All right. Yeah. If anyone has any more questions, they can ask it out. Otherwise, I think we covered all the questions in Q&A as well. So
I
yeah.
think there are a few, like, is it worth learning a new language and framework solely for a particular organization?
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
I think yes. Like, why not? It's adding something to your skill set. And yeah, like if you have something else to do or you have some better alternative, then maybe you can go for that. But learning something new is always beneficial for you. Adding something to your skill set, yes, it is good indeed to like learn something for a particular organization. And if it's something that's less common, like JavaScript and Python have a lot of competition, but if you are like applying for a development project in like C++ or something like Go, like there is not as many students, so like you have less competition too, and yeah, you are learning something, so that never goes waste.
Okay, I think we can keep this as the last question for our session. Can some of you please share your contact? So, we can go about. Prakhar, you can stop presenting the screen. That's the last question, I guess, right? All right. So I think we can go one by one and share our contacts that people can reach us out. So Nishant, we are first. You.
You can like in the Discord server itself. I'm there on Discord. You can like I dropped in a link to my Twitter thread. You can message me on Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Arjun?
Pretty much active with the Hangouts, so I will mention my email here.
Okay, great. Next who is okay. Alphabetically, I come next. So you can contact me on my Twitter handle. I am more active there, so I will just drop that in. Sanchit, would you like to go now?
Yeah, you can message me on LinkedIn. I'll drop my ID here. A little bit of general gyan I'd like to give as we end the session. यार यहाँ पे मतलब we talked a lot about all of the process, community bonding proposal. Everything will sound very confusing. So since it is November, आज पहली डेट है नवंबर की, the simplest advice I would give to you guys जो भी session में है, just start coding अभी. Don't procrastinate, don't delay. अब बस अभी कोडिंग शुरू कर दो. तुम्हें लाइक जनवरी फरवरी में ये लगेगा कि वी आर ग्लैड वी स्टार्टेड देन. मैंने बहुत गलती करी थी. निशांत भैया मैंने मेरे को कहा था कि शुरू कर देना नवंबर में. दिसंबर में मैंने बोला भैया नहीं किया, अब कर दूं क्या? भैया कहते हैं हाँ अभी कर दो, सही है. पर मैंने तब भी नहीं किया. आई स्टार्टेड इन फरवरी. तो वो सो मतलब आई वुड नॉट रिकमेंड कि एनीबडी एंड अप इन माय पोजीशन. So I would just say कि just start working अभी.
But you still made it, so that's something. Yeah.
वो that.
Yeah.
मतलब वो I would not recommend anybody to play the odds जो उस time
Exactly.
face कर रहा था.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sanyad, would you like to mention your contact method, like the people can contact you? Okay. No, we don't have any. Shivanshu, would you like to go ahead and mention your contact number or anything?
I guess I'm more active on WhatsApp, so I'll share that. But
Okay.
you can also message me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. All right. Prakhar.
I'll share my WhatsApp number and LinkedIn.
All right. And Nishta.
Yeah, I'll share my Twitter handle and LinkedIn.
All right. All right. I will stop the recording now and